Wow, thank you very much. Thank you, Francis, for the beautiful words and for reminding us all of Ed's legacy, of his commitment to our movement, to our party, and to building a better Canada. Thank you so much. Give it up for Francis. A huge thank you to the Broadbent Institute. As an institute, this is the preeminent institute to provide a vision for a better future, a more progressive future, a more inclusive future. And for everyone that's attending, all of you here today at the Progress Summit, you are the leaders in communities. You are the folks that are fighting for a better community, a better country. And I want to thank each and every one of you for the work that you do. Each and every one of you contributes massively to this project of building this better world. We know we can do it. So thank you. Je veux d'abord remercier l'Institut Broadbent pour son travail acharné, incroyable, et aussi à vous tous, parce que vous êtes ici dans ce sommet. Ce sommet représente vraiment le mouvement progressiste du Canada, donc votre présence, votre implication, le travail que vous faites, c'est incroyable. Merci pour tout ce que vous faites. Merci. Friends, in March alone, Canada lost over 32,000 jobs, mostly full-time and not by accident. It's the result of U.S.-imposed tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and auto, and corporate executives holding back investments to protect their bottom line. We know that what happens next when things get hard, it's never the CEOs or executives that take the hit. It's working people. It's the middle class. It's families who get the pink slips, who have to cut back on groceries, delay the dentist, and go without the medication they need, while the rich and powerful never feel the pinch. Rien qu'en mars, le Canada a perdu plus de 32 000 emplois. Et ce n'est pas un hasard. En temps de crise, c'est toujours les mêmes qui paient, les travailleurs et travailleuses, monsieur, madame, tout le monde, pendant que les riches PDG s'enrichissent. C'est normal parce que les libéraux et les conservateurs se concentrent à protéger les ultra-riches pendant qu'ils laissent les travailleurs avec un système d'assurance-emploi pourri. C'est pourquoi on a besoin du NPD à Ottawa, pour s'assurer que les travailleurs et travailleuses ont une voix. Pour quelqu'un qui s'y batte pour les protéger, les travailleurs et travailleuses. That's why we're here. Because in a moment when everyday people are being asked to carry the weight, we need a movement that refuses to let them carry it alone. This isn't theoretical. This isn't abstract. Real people are feeling the impact every day. Let me tell you a story. I met this young boy with his dad when I first became leader in Ottawa. And he had type 1 diabetes. And he told me about all the medications he's got to take, the injections, the fact that he's got this incurable disease. And I said, well, that's pretty heavy. This 10-year-old kid telling him about the fact that he knows he could die if he doesn't monitor his blood sugar. And I asked him, what's that like for you? He said, I'm not worried. I got this. I can take care of myself. I know I can take the right medication and to get my injections. I'm okay. The one thing I'm worried about, 10-year-old kid, the one thing I'm worried about is being a burden on my parents. Little kid. And he's like, I don't want to be a burden on them. And I looked him in his eyes and I said, I promise you, I'm going to fight to change that. And we kept that promise. 25 New Democrats. Our caucus of 25 New Democrat MPs, and most importantly, every Canadian who voted for us in 2021, forced the Liberal government to make diabetes medication free for all. We did that together, all of us. Je veux partager une autre histoire. C'est concernant Suzanne, mais elle a insisté que je l'appelle Sue, donc je vais utiliser le nom Sue. Sue est une personne âgée. Elle a pris sa retraite, donc elle a un salaire fixe. Et elle est une survivante de cancer. Donc ça veut dire qu'elle a pris tous les médicaments pour faire face à cancer et elle est une survivante. Mais à cause de cette maladie, elle a perdu ses dents. Donc j'étais avec elle. Elle m'a invité d'être là quand elle a visité le dentiste pour la première fois. Elle était dans la chaise, dans le bureau du dentiste. Et elle a demandé au dentiste si elle peut avoir encore sa souris. Et elle a une ancienne photo de sa souris. Et elle a dit est-ce que vous pouvez m'aider? Et j'étais là quand le dentiste a dit oui, je vais vous aider et je vais vous aider avec vos sourires encore. Et c'est grâce à ce programme de soins dentaires. Et je me rappelle ces larmes de joie quand elle a dit que je vais avoir ma dignité encore. C'était nous qui avons fait ça. All of this is a reminder that power is only meaningful when you use it to make life better for others. We gather today in the shadow of Ed Broadbent's legacy. But more importantly, we are here to move his fight forward. His politics were rooted in justice, compassion, and courage. Ed reminded us it's not just about seeking power. It's about how we use that power. And when New Democrats have had power, we've used it to make life better for working people. And yes, that even meant making a deal with the Liberals. Now, Ed never had any illusions about the Liberals. He knew, like too many forget, that the Liberals only do the right thing when they're forced to. They do it when they're pushed, when they're pressured, when they know someone's holding them to account. Now, some of you may remember an interview he did, and there were headlines. People said he was calling us out for not ending our deal with the Liberals sooner. And after the news broke, Ed called me immediately to say, no, that's not what he meant. He was incredibly proud of what we had accomplished. But what he said to me afterwards was very simple. He said, you can't trust the Liberals. You have to force them to do the right thing every time. Now, some of you might not like hearing this, but what Ed said was true. Ed understood something essential about how progress actually happens in this country. It's not that the Liberals don't talk a good game. They do. I admit it. They talk a great game. And some may genuinely believe in the things we fight for. But they only deliver when New Democrats have had the power to make them deliver. That's the difference. When we stand our ground, when we stay clear in our purpose and relentless in our fight, we hold them accountable. That's how we got universal health care. That's how we won pensions, bargaining rights, dental care, and that's how we took the first steps towards national pharmacare. And it's how I kept my promise to that young boy about the worry about his cost of medication. The things Canadians are most proud of, the things that make us believe in this country, only happened because New Democrats fought for them. And we could only fight for them because people have used their power, their vote, to send us to Ottawa. That's our legacy. That's our responsibility. That's why we're here. We fight for public health care because it's the foundation of who we are. We fight for strong unions and good jobs because working people deserve more than just to get by. They deserve the power to stand up to the boss, for fairness, for better pay, and a decent life. Because strong unions make a strong, resilient Canadian economy. And we won't let Donald Trump or anyone else tear that down or trade it away. We fight for housing as a human right, for clean air and safe water, for Indigenous justice, for a Canada where every person can live with security and purpose. La majorité des programmes dont nous sommes fiers sont le résultat du travail du NPD, que ce soit notre système de santé, l'assurance-emploi ou le régime de pension du Canada. À chaque fois qu'on a eu la balance du pouvoir, on l'a utilisé pour aider les gens par les riches PDG. On l'a prouvé encore dans le dernier mandat. Avec seulement 25 députés, nous avons mis en place des soins dentaires pour plus de millions de Québécois. On a mis la base pour une assurance médicaments universelle et entièrement publique. Et on a banni les briseurs de grève. Imaginez ce qu'on pourra faire avec plus de néo-démocrates. In this last parliament, with just 25 new Democrat MPs, we fought to deliver dental care for kids and seniors. We introduced national pharmacare after 30 years of broken Liberal promises. We secured anti-scab legislation after decades of Liberals and Conservatives voting it down. We won 10 paid sick days. That's what happens. That's what happens when you elect New Democrats. We don't waste the power you give us, we wield it for people. Now imagine what more we could do with even more New Democrats in Ottawa, because the stakes couldn't be higher. Pierre Poilievre wants to bring Trump-style politics to Canada. He wants to divide us when we need unity. He would hand our housing crisis to the very predatory corporations who caused it. And we know the cuts he has planned would be devastating. He attacks trans kids. He stokes the flames of fear. He threatens the very principles that define who we are. That's not a vision. It's a warning sign. And if he wins, Canadians lose. But here's the hard truth. If the Liberals win, just because they're less bad than the alternative, nothing ever changes for the better. That's how we got here. 10 years of Liberals. And what do we have to show for it? Rising rents, exploding grocery prices, emergency rooms stretched to the breaking point, family doctors impossible to find, all the while the rich keep getting richer. Everyday people have been told to wait, to sacrifice, while they fall further and further behind. Every day in this campaign, I hear the stories of people who aren't just struggling, they're scared. And it doesn't have to be this way. Very shortly after the election, there will be a federal budget. And you need New Democrats to be there, fighting to make sure it delivers for working and middle-class people. And what that means concretely is saying no to Carney's $43 billion in cuts to health care, old age security, and pensions. It means pushing for national rent control, a family doctor for every Canadian, and more nurses and healthcare workers, universal pharmacare, starting with essential medicines, grocery price caps, better EI, tax relief for working people, making sure we make the rich pay for it, making CEOs and big corporations and the ultra-wealthy finally pay their fair share. NDP, NDP, NDP. Because, my friends, every budget is a choice. And too often those choices protect profits while working families have to fend for themselves. The 32,000 jobs lost last month are just the beginning. It's a warning sign of what's coming. The next government will face real pressure, and working people will need someone in their corner, fighting to make sure they don't pay the price again, and holding those in power accountable for the choices they make. Alors, quand quelqu'un demande « Pourquoi voter pour l'NPD ?», répondez-lui ceci. Parce que lorsque nous avons du pouvoir, nous l'utilisons pour faire avancer les choses, pour améliorer la vie des gens. Pour garder les libéraux honnêtes. Le Canada fonctionne mieux lorsque les néo-démocrates sont forts. Et Ottawa fonctionne mieux lorsque un parti n'a pas tout le pouvoir. Cette élection, vous pouvez voter pour avoir plus de néo-démocrates qui vont se battre pour un contrôle national des loyers, pas enrichir les géants immobiliers. Investir en santé au lieu de couper ou privatiser. Une assurance médicaments universelle, en commençant par les médicaments essentiels au lieu de protéger les grandes compagnies pharmaceutiques. Un plafonnement des prix à l'épicerie plutôt que d'enrichir Galen Weston. Donner un coup de pouce aux travailleurs et travailleuses avec l'assurance emploi et une coupure d'impôts au lieu d'aider les millionnaires. Et le NPD va être là pour protéger la langue française, la culture et nos agriculteurs contre Donald Trump. Quand vous votez... Merci. Merci. Quand vous votez NPD, vous votez pour aider les gens, pas les riches PDG. So when someone asks you, why vote NDP? Tell them this. Because when we have power, we use it to get things done, to make life better for people. Because Canada works best when New Democrats are strong. And Ottawa works best when there's someone there to hold the powerful to account. And in a moment when Trump threatens our country, we need leaders who will do more than just stand up for Canada. We must protect what makes us proud to be Canadian. That's the kind of politics Ed Broadbent believed in. That's what New Democrats deliver. And we'll keep fighting for it with you, because your vote isn't just a choice. Your vote isn't just a choice. It's a statement of values and a commitment to a better Canada. You're not just part of the movement. You are the reason it moves. Merci. Thank you so much. Let's go build it together. Let's get out there and fight together, my friends. Let's go make it happen. We can do this. Let's go. Merci. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Oh. They told me to keep this short, but they just gave a microphone to a teacher, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for having me, sir.
You're amazing. This is, folks, this is like not just a teacher and an education worker extraordinaire. This is Joanna, TikTok star extraordinaire as well. Round of applause for Joanna.
I should have had my phone filming it right now. So I have a list of questions. What I'm hoping for is to just start a conversation. I'm much better at that than I am the list of questions. But I wanted to have a premise. I wanted to have a base to start one of the most important conversations leading into this election. First and foremost, dental and pharmacare. Such incredible accomplishments, such powerful changes to the way Canada takes care of its people. If I were to ask you, and I know this is asking a lot, hon, that was an accident. That was a nice hun, not a mean hun. What's next?
What's next?
One thing. Give me one thing, one powerful movement.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I really feel like the context of what's next has to be the context of what we're up against. So we got all sorts of chaos coming from Donald Trump. Folks are really worried. There's a lot of unpredictability about what's going to happen next. And I feel like what comes next has to respond to that. The fact that Canadians are wondering, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? And I really think that the next budget is going to be a really important time for us to say, well, what are we going to do for everyday folks who are feeling this worry and are feeling uncertain and maybe scared of the future? How do we give people some hope, some real concrete hope? And so what's next for me, I think the things I laid out, we got to make sure people can afford their groceries, they can afford a home, they got to be able to live a good life, we got to give people relief. We have to have employment insurance that's high enough to cover people's bills, because right now the amount that you get barely is half your salary. People can't survive off of that. So we've got to really, I would say it would be putting working people, everyday people first, and making sure we've got a budget that protects them.
I think handling an individual like Donald Trump is a special kind of skill set I'm not sure anybody really anticipated. But what he's done in a very accidental way is he's highlighted the importance of the NDP, the importance of protecting the Canadian worker unions, the establishment of all the gains we make. He's the antithesis. I was going to use a different word there. Antithesis to that. Right. He has done a very odd service to say this is why the NDP is incredibly needed. So how would you handle him?
Yeah, I think, on fighting back against Donald Trump, I think we all need to be united. We're one country fighting back against an attack directly to our workers, so let's stay united. But then what you mentioned is a really important thing. There's this sense that he's attacking who we are.
Absolutely.
And so Canadians are starting to say, well, I don't want to be the 51st state. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud to be Canadian. And then people are starting to examine, well, what does that mean to be proud to be Canadian? And like you said, it makes people think about the values that we're fighting for. And that's where people start to say, well, I'm proud of our universal health care. I'm proud that we take care of each other. We don't let people just fend for themselves. And then people start to wonder, well, who's going to actually protect the things that I value, the things that matter to me? And I can tell you that when it comes down to it, we've seen in the past that sadly Liberals have made massive cuts to our public health care, and it's starved it of funding. Folks will remember that. When they talked about balancing budgets and they talked about cuts, they just slashed healthcare is what they did. And we know that Pierre Poilievre is proposing openly deep cuts. That's very scary. And so it's really important now to say, well, who's going to actually defend the things that we care about, that make us Canadian, those values that we hold dear? I would say to you, New Democrats are the only ones that are committed to keeping our public health care public, universal. You never have to pay. It's not about privatization and enriching the pockets of those at the top, but about making sure people get the best quality care. And we're the only ones going to defend that value.
I'm not used to being outspoken. On the healthcare aspect, how do we stop that privatization train that it seems as though a lot of provincial premiers maybe are driving that train a little too hard and understanding the division of power there? How does our federal government stop that progression?
We enforce the Canada Health Act. We've got laws in place that say that we can defend it. Let's enforce it. The other big thing that we have, the other tool is we negotiate healthcare transfers. And we can require a condition that if we're giving public money, hard-earned Canadians' public money to our healthcare system, we could require a condition that not a single cent of that money should go to a for-profit private clinic. It should go only to public healthcare.
So when I talk about these issues, and people really do try to articulate what it is to be Canadian, they list exactly what you're talking about, yet still feel or still have the conversations that say, well, I'm stuck between Carney and Poilievre. I don't want to split the vote. How do you address those kind of fundamental fears for Canadians who are just trying to figure out, sometimes, rather than putting the best person in the job, how do I avoid the worst?
Well, I would say, think about when Ottawa works best, or when Canada has been at its best. And the things that have made us most proud as Canadians has happened when one party didn't hold all the power. That's when the best things have happened in Canada. When New Democrats have had strength, some of the best things have happened. Like our advances haven't happened by chance. We fought for them. And New Democrats don't just exist in a vacuum. When we fought for universal health care with Tommy Douglas gets a credit, but it's because Canadians voted for him. Right. Canadians voted for Tommy Douglas and his New Democrat team, and he was able to then do it. And while my team and I are proud that we were able to use our power to bring in dental care and pharmacare, we couldn't have done that but for Canadians who said, you know what, we're going to vote for New Democrats and send them to Ottawa. And I said this in my speech in French, but I mean it. A lot of times, folks have always said to me when I was kind of walking around in the community between elections, keep them honest. Get out there and keep them honest. Because Canadians know on their own, the Liberals aren't going to do what people need. So you need New Democrats there fighting for you. And so I would say, remember our history, remember what we've done recently. Anytime things have worked out for people is when there's been strong New Democrats and when one party doesn't hold all the power.
Absolutely. And I think forcing power to come to heel has always been an incredibly powerful role for the NDP, and it's worked out incredibly well for Canadians. When you talk about affordability, people throw around the word affordability all the time. They don't worry, I'm going to make everything more affordable. And I don't feel as though they give concrete examples of how they're going to bring that to fruition. And I don't think they bring concrete examples because they don't have any. What would you say, and how quickly could you bring affordability to Canadians, whether they be grocery prices or rent or mortgage rates? What would you say that you would be your first step, and how quickly could you make that transition?
I think this is really important. I think it also gets at cynicism, because people say, you made this promise. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's achievable. And then people don't feel like it even matters if they vote or not. I think when you don't give people a real clear vision of how you can achieve these things, it feeds into people being apathetic about voting. And so one concrete example that we have said before, we put forward a motion on this before, we put forward bills on this before, something that we want to see happen is a price cap on food essentials. This is a concrete way to bring down food prices. And so, so what that means is on a basket of essential food items, so think about like bread or baby formula, the essentials that people need, we would impose a price cap. You can't charge more than a fair amount, a reasonable amount for these items. And for a proof point, France has done it and brought down food inflation by over 15% by doing this. Greece has done it and brought down food prices by 15%. So it can be done. Other countries have done it. And more economists are saying when we're seeing prices go up and they're driven by the people that sell those items, they're the ones that are driving up the prices. The only way to bring them back down or to stop this gouging is to put in laws that stop price gouging. And a price cap, a cap on food essentials is a way to do that.
Okay. We hear a lot about how rich people hide their money.
Yeah.
Number one, how do I get the money and how do I hide it? No, that's not the question. It's not the question. It's not on this sheet. We hear about the Cayman Islands. We hear about numbered bank accounts. We hear of tax avoidance, and if the 0.1% paid their fair share, what kind of position we would be in. How do we combat that?
First, let's just talk about what's at stake. Because it's not just happening in a vacuum. Like when a company doesn't pay its taxes, and we're not talking about increased taxes, just as paying what you owe. And then there's purposeful tax avoidance. There's both those things that go on in Canada. When a company doesn't pay what it owes or purposely avoids paying taxes, that's less investment in healthcare. So what does that mean? Less nurses, less doctors, less frontline healthcare workers. It means less care for people. It literally is starving our system. It means less investments in building the things that we need, public infrastructure, public transit. And so these companies, while it may be legal in some cases, are stealing, are cheating from people. And some of the examples that we're hearing about, there's offshore tax accounts, where offshore tax havens, where people or companies are registering in another country, and they're doing that because we have an agreement with that country. So Bermuda is an example. We have an agreement with Bermuda, and you can set up a company there. But it's not like everyday people can say, all right, I'm going to change my address to Bermuda and then not pay my taxes. Why do we let companies do that? Particularly if a company makes its profits entirely in Canada and then just registers in another country to avoid paying taxes, that's wrong. And people might say, well, they might leave. No, they're making their profits here. Pay your taxes here. So concretely, what we could do, we could end those agreements, and we've laid that out. We would end those agreements. The second thing is we could put in an accounting rule. If you are setting up your company that makes its profits in Canada, in another country, prove to us the economic benefit of where you're setting up your office. Prove to us there's an economic reason for it. And if you can't prove it, then you got to pay your taxes in Canada. And the example I would give you, is Brookfield Investments set up billions of dollars of investments in an office in Hamilton, but not Hamilton, Ontario, Hamilton, Bermuda. And the office is above a bike shop. And it's like a little teeny office. There's no economic purpose for setting it up there. It's clearly to avoid paying taxes. And I'm worried that if, the chair of that, you might know the chair of that company, who just a couple months ago was the chair, if they're willing to make a decision, that was his personal fund, the fund that he was managing, if he's going to do that with his own fund that he had control over, how can we trust him to close these tax loopholes? And we're talking about billions and billions of dollars of revenue we're losing. Tens of billions of dollars.
I'd like more information on that. I've never heard of it before. It's a coincidence. I have one more question. It's a hard one.
Sure.
So Canada works best when we take care of each other. Canada works best when we understand our fundamental values. We're sitting in an unprecedented time, I think, of fear. I think people are driven by fear, and when we're driven as such, we tend to do less intelligent things. We tend to act and react, and anger gets the best of us, or emotion gets the best of us. If you could wipe that away and replace it with a level of empowerment and a level of hope, how would you do that?
I think a lot of folks kind of prey on fear. When there's a fear, you can start pitting people against each other. And I think a lot of what the Conservatives were trying to do is to use fear as a way to divide us, to say, oh, it's that person's fault, or blame this community, and pit us against each other. And I think one of the things that we have to do is acknowledge that fear is coming from a real place, acknowledge the worry that Canadians have, the uncertainty in their lives, and then we have an obligation and a responsibility to give people some hope. And the hope is that there are things that we can do to make people's lives better, that we have choices that we can make that put people first, and that choices have brought us to this position where the country has decided to let big corporations buy up affordable homes, and we don't have affordable homes for everyday people. That corporate grocery store greed and jacking up prices has been let to happen unfettered, and that's meant that people can't afford their groceries. And we have a responsibility to say, well, those choices resulted in your hardship. We can make better choices to get better outcomes. And I want folks to know that I truly believe we can tackle these challenges. They're not easy, but there are better choices we can make. And so for folks out there who are worried, I want you to believe better is possible. we can bring down the price of groceries. We can build homes that people can truly afford. We can invest in our healthcare system and save it and strengthen it and make it there for people when they need it. This is all possible. But we have to give people that hope that better is possible. And I hope people can look to me and the New Democrats and see we're in it for you. We're not going to try to help out the billionaires or Brookfield Investments or Galen Weston. We're fighting for you and your family. And trust me when I say we deliver dental care and pharmacare, we can make life more affordable. We can build a brighter future for Canadians. Trust me when I say that.
And although I would like to stay here for the 45 minutes I thought I had, I'm going to have to roll it in. But thank you so much for putting who you are, putting everything on the line for Canada, for what you believe in, for what you think is fair, what you think is just, because it's that kind of bravery, I think, that are going to empower millions of Canadians to do the same thing in their own lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Joe. Thank you to Broadbent Institute. Thank you so much.